explain to you why we originally thought to do this kind of workshop? You know, when all of you are already kind of being trained in the substance of your research, the notion of kind of building additional capacity to write for wider audiences, to write for public audiences, to move beyond our kind of little academic bubbles.
So happy to have you here, and the Wits Center for Journalism is quite honored to be hosting you and having the Africa-China Reporting Project in partnership with the CAAC as well as the China Global South Project.
And the importance of writing and speaking for impact. I think this is the meat of my presentation. First of all, it reaches a bigger audience and faster. I will give an example of this. So we're not only underperforming economically, but we're underperforming democratically. So political assassination, ordinary people being killed, people being jailed on flimsy charges. I started extracting chapters from that book to write articles in newspapers so that at least I could try as much as I can in a modest way outside Zambia to see if I can shape some of the political narratives, starting with the area where I grew up, Macau.
Sometimes we forget, I think we fall under so much pressure to write, and that, you know, that we're also really fortunate in what we do, because how many people in their line of work can say, well, in my day-to-day, I am allowed to stay curious and study new phenomena. But I think at the risk of sounding so mysterious, like I said, I did manage to distill, I think, my experience into three main areas that I wanted to share with you today.
I used to write all of my stories at 1,200 words. When I commissioned stories, I would edit them to 1,200 words, look very nice with a headline and a picture. In the continent, because of our format, we're designed for a mobile phone. One page is 300 words. So I was having to take stories that I would normally run at 1,200 words and get them to 300 words. It was really hard. But you know what I learned? Is that 300 word story, if you do it well enough, has all the same information, can have a narrative, and you have saved 75% of your reader's time. And that is an incredibly valuable commodity. It means that they are more likely to read that one story and get what you want them to get than to read your incredibly long story. So that has been a really major learning for us.
Well, I read quite a lot of op-eds in newspapers and other platforms where somebody starts with an idea and there's an argument, but they can't sustain it over 1,000 words, which is the length that they've been asked to write to. And guess what happens? They start taking off-ramps. You know, if you're driving from here to Pretoria, there's so many off-ramps along the way, and mid-range and so on. So then they start taking off-ramps, going elsewhere, and then you lose the reader if you do it that way. Because you can't sustain or support your argument over 1,000 words, right? So those are the basic building blocks of a good op-ed. That you need to be able to good idea, argument, sustain it and support it over the length.
I took a course on China, the Global World Order in my university in Vancouver. Fairly patronizing experience sitting in class and hearing all the Western students talk about what the American agenda was and the one picture of all that China is. So I got frustrated. So all of this started from anger. So I was looking into, I reflected on my own perspective as a Nigerian and my lens of China's presence in my country and then the countries around me. I wrote a paper on China-Africa mining relations, kind of looking at the resource for infrastructure deals. And I looked at the copper belt using Zambia as a case study.
My research looked at how Chinese multinational corporations affected local development in the setting of various actors, using the Ethiopian Hawassa Industrial Park as an example.
In recent years, China has been a willing financier spending huge amounts of development finance in the form of loans and in other cases using resources as collateral. However, Zimbabwe and Chinese lenders have been less transparent concerning the scale, terms and composition of this finance, engendering a great deal of speculation about its nature. Against this background, this film piece discusses infrastructure financing in Zimbabwe, highlighting the opportunities, challenges and policy options.
China has also been building the presidential office complex for Mozambique, revamping national offices in Zambia, or building the offices of president and vice president to Uganda. So using the gift theory of Moss and how that theory has been further reinterpreted by the anthropologists and international relations theorists, so the research would assess the nature of these projects in the light of those theoretical underpinnings.
As when you did your pitches yesterday, I'm getting a good sense of an introduction to what your research is. But if we're talking about 800 words, you don't have the space. So if I read 3 or 4 sentences and I still don't know what your founding is, what your takeaway is, that's way too long. So shorter, just think shorter, active verbs, active sentences in terms of tips. This is very different from the way that we have all been trained to write for our academic kind of audiences.
Yeah, I think also, just as in general, if you get kind of stuck a little bit thinking about what the newsbook is, sometimes it helps to just like read op-eds that are on the same topic. It just gets you out of that little blockage, right? So just see what other people, how do they start their op-eds if they are around the same topic.
If you're gonna publish in a media outlet, and if it's gonna be short, right? The things that, like Axios is 300 words, right? The Monkey Cage and The Diplomat are about 800 words. And you guys?
We don't have a hard limit, but it's about, we recommend up to 600 words. 2 of the most contentious issues of the 21st century, capable of destabilizing global peace, etc. etc. I was like, move things up and lose arguably, you know? Make things more like conclusive. I think from the start, this is a general kind of like